All right, what's going on, guys? I got Jordan Mix here. Jordan is the operating partner of Late Checkout and co-founder of Idea Browser. Jordan, before we dive in, do you just want to give us a little rundown of what you guys are doing at Late Checkout, Idea Browser, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so Late Checkout is a holding company of cash flowing internet businesses. And it started as a businesses around community or a community at the center. So we have this framework called ACP. It's audience community product. Find an underserved audience, put them in a community to learn what they want, build them products that they're begging for. And Greg Eisenberg, you might have seen him around the internet on the Startup Ideas podcast or his X. He has a pretty big following, and he had this framework as he was building his previous businesses, and he wanted to start a holding company that was rooted in this ACP framework. So Late Checkout is a holding company, and I operate Startup Ideas podcast and Idea Browser. And then we have Late Checkout Agency, LCA, which is building the best and futuristic interfaces for some of the products that you love and use every day, like Grammarly, Dropbox, TikTok, um, other people like that we can't even really talk about, but they do futuristic AI native design. And then we have Boring Marketing, and is doing all things AI based marketing and vibe marketing.
Mhm. Nice. I know you guys got a lot going on there, but I got to shout out Idea Browser. I'm a personal Idea Browser user. What's cool about that is like whether you are like starting a business or you're in the process of growing your business, Idea Browser gives you ideas. And that's one thing I learned as a founder is like you can never have not enough ideas, and sometimes it's kind of hard to come up with your own ideas. So I'll definitely link Idea Browser down in the description. Big fan. Not affiliated either, but just kind of shout you guys out.
Thank
But
you, bro.
dude, a few months ago, I guess back in January at this point, we did an in-person event together. It was your guys' first in-person event in the late checkout ecosystem. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about why you guys decided to do that. You and Ethan, my business partner, got connected on X. You guys were talking in the DMs. That was kind of in the idea phase for what ended up being offline mode, the in-person event. But going back to before you got connected with Ethan, back when you and Greg were just talking about it, what was kind of the initial inspiration behind making the move to do an in-person event?
Yeah, it's something we always wanted to do. It was always felt like that donut-sized hole in our heart where we have all these digital assets, but we love getting together in person. And we would do these trips and throw these little meetups that were impromptu and either like in New York or SF or in Miami. And it was just always felt like it would be really fun to do a structured event in the right way. And we tried for a long time to do an event. We would talk to these event planners, and it was just never like top of mind really until I was just always scrumming the internet looking for people doing interesting like IRL stuff. And yeah, I saw Ethan and the replies of a Greg tweet, and his bio said like I done for you IRL events. And so I was like, I'm gonna DM this guy and be like, "What's up? What do you do?" And he went straight to the point. It's like we do IRL events for people who don't want to do it. And I said, "That's me."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so like I think there's so much connection and trust and affinity you can build in a digital world, but the exponential curve happens when you meet IRL for the first time. And I think you can build a ton of trust and affinity, but you always remember the time that you got together in person. And I think we wanted to like have a an event or a moment where a lot of these founders had listened to Greg or seen our stuff on the internet come and really for 2 days work on their business and really have it be an inflection point that they looked back on as I went to offline mode, and that really changed my career or business that I was working on.
Mhm.
So that was like the intent.
Awesome. Yeah, and like what was it like meeting your people in person? Because you guys, you have a lot of different aspects to late checkout. One of those aspects is like an actual online community for founders that are building businesses in the age of AI. Like like what was it like to meet the people that you've been interacting with online for so long, actually in a physical real space?
It's surreal. It's so cool to, I mean, especially Greg, who has like, they've spent a ton of time parasocially listening to him talk into their ears.
Mhm.
So to see people meet Greg and just jam with him IRL and just like really be transformed by the content that we make and that Greg produces into the world is just it's a surreal moment to see those people meet us, but really meet each other. You know, a lot of this stuff is single player mode, and you're listening while you're doing dishes or
Mhm.
you're watching a podcast at your computer alone, and it's just a one way microphone. So
Mhm.
meeting people that are into your same stuff and speak the same language of you as you is crazy. And I think that's probably what people valued the most out of meeting it. It's like, yeah, the content was cool. Yeah, the learnings were great.
Mhm.
But I met a dude from Virginia that speaks the same language of me, and now I have a friend that I can text,
Mhm.
and we're in the same position in life, and we both have two kids, and now we're friends. We live 3,000 miles apart, but we're friends.
Mhm.
I
No,
think
that's
that's
so
the
cool.
underrated part of one, doing content, and then two, putting those people that listen to you in the same room.
Mhm. No, totally. That's actually something I want to kind of double click on. Obviously, you guys are kind of at the cutting edge of AI, given the nature of your business. I wanted to ask you, like, what role do you see in-person events and like IRL components of a business? What role do you see that playing in this AI era that we're living in right now, especially for like businesses that have a community or a community aspect to them? Like, what role do you see IRL events playing in those businesses with how crazy AI is going to get in the future?
Yeah, humans are visual learners,
Hmm.
and they process visual information at I think like 600 times like written information.
Hmm.
And as this work with AI gets less and less visual, you moved from interface to a terminal, and you're just like now talking into your computer, and AI is creating files, and you don't know where they went, you don't know where they're stored, you're not sure what's happening. There's like a sense of disillusionment. I say all that to say that's only going to increase more and more and more. And I feel like people are going to retreat back to something concrete,
Hmm.
something they know that they can get, something physical, something they can see, feel, touch, hear, smell, all the human things. Like there's going to be an innate desire to do that more. And even like at offline mode, we saw that people were working on their computers, but I don't know, 2 years ago at these events, no one was like looking over each other's shoulder. Like no one was like putting their hands on other people's keyboards. And that was happening all the time at offline mode is people were curious about how people were setting stuff up. People were taking computers off people's laps and putting their own in like, oh, you just do it like this.
Hmm.
So I think as the digital world with AI gets more mystical, people are going to retreat back to IRL stuff and have a desire both for the business world and for I'm so sick of talking to ChatGPT. Can I just talk to a real human?
Hmm.
I think people are just going to desire that in, you know, I mean, the Coachella stuff was all over the place, all over the feed. You know, I think people I think Coachella made the most they ever made this year. And they were down bad a couple years ago, if I remember. So I think
Totally.
people just have like a hunger for it.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And what's something else to add on to that? I don't know if you saw like that Gary V interview that went viral like a few days ago, but it was him talking
No,
about like one of the he's most interested right now in event-based businesses. Like he's like I'm super bullish on like analog event-based businesses, anything that has like a community in-person event aspect to it. And it's just like super interesting that's like where the industry is going despite like all this AI hype and everything that's going on. But he said that in like 3 years, people are gonna be watching this interview, and the whole time they'll be thinking about if we're actually real people. You know, like it's gonna be like, is this actually Gary Vee or is this Gary Vee's AI avatar that's like having an interview with these other two guys' AI avatar? So I think with that happening online, like the with never being able to truly know if someone's real online, I think having some sort of in-person component is gonna be so important, especially for like creator-led and community-based businesses. It's just like it's kind of crazy to think about what it's gonna be like.
I'm not looking forward to that distinction of having to figure out if people are real or not. But yeah, I think you see this trend, and we've always talked about this with y'all's business is just I saw Anthropic is hiring a $400,000 per year employee that can own and manage events,
Hmm.
their events business. So like the leading AI company, arguably, right now, the frontier lab that's moving the needle the most is investing quite a lot in one person to construct and organize events,
Hmm.
let alone their event budget. Who knows how much that is? But $400,000 for a single employee for an IRL space and for the leading lab is definitely a lagging indicator that IRL is desired and a leading indicator that IRL will just explode.
Hmm. No, totally. Yeah, and I saw that in our little chat. I was like, that's a lot more than most event planners get paid. So they're definitely it's cool to see them dumping a lot of money to that because that's like obviously something that we're super passionate about. But going back to offline mode, the event that we did together, what I thought was cool about you guys from like the moment we talked to you is you weren't in it for like the money and the gains, like the traditional format for events in this space has been, do a 3-day event. Greg in this case would get up on stage, or you and Greg at the same time. You guys would sling some high ticket offer, make 6 and 7 figures in revenue and like walk away with your payday. Like that's what most people have done like that's what they've used events for over the last, 5, 10, 15 years. But you guys were very clear that you want it to be all about the experience, the community, the trust, the affinity. Um, what we call the intangible benefits of events. And obviously our event was like successful on paper, but what were some of those intangible benefits that you guys cared about and what did they actually look like after the event was completed?
Yeah, we didn't want it to feel it was our first event one, so we didn't want to do some big upsell in the back end. We wanted to do this as an MVP, like we do everything, like crawl, walk, run. This is was going to be the first event. It might be the only event we ever did, and that's how we sold it. And so we with the content, whether it's a simple tweet or a YouTube video or a workshop, virtual workshop, or an IRL event, we always think about how the viewer or the audience could get the maximum value per minute spent
Hmm.
with anything that we do. Like, how is it framed? What's the promise? What are because people's time is precious, and I think if you waste people's time, you're gonna just tarnish your affinity that you might not even build. So how can you it makes it easier on yourself too if you think about this stuff is how can you get people to that dream outcome as fast as possible and money and customers and upsells and blah 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 is all just a byproduct of doing that intentionally.
Hmm.
And so as long as we were going to make, you know, the money on and cover the cost of the event and do it somewhat profitably so it's worth the time and investment, then that's all we really cared about for the event so that people could get the most out of it for the value that they paid and not
Hmm.
just be like, hey, thanks for paying the entry price offer to then, but to get the really VIP experience, you need to get out your checkbooks one more time.
Hmm.
And I think people just are used to seeing that too. Like even people I think in the interview, they were like, I expected, an upsell or they were
Yeah.
asking actually to be sold, they were they were looking for something more after. They were like, "Can we do this again next year?" And we were like, "No." Like maybe, who knows? So, I think moving with that intent is just like this dream outcome. Do we want to do it? Will the audience get the most value out of it? Does that
Hmm.
answer? Is like,
Totally, yeah. No,
yeah.
and that's just like I thought that was so unique because a lot of the times when we work with somebody, obviously like we want the event to make financial sense for the business. Like we're not saying, oh, your event should like lose money and like it's just a big investment into the community, Like events can make money but also be great experiences, like kind of like offline mode did. But we usually have to sell people on the intangible benefits of events, and, like convince them like,
Mhm.
hey, the affinity, the trust, the content, like meeting your people in person, like that's what we have to sell them on. But you guys were like reverse, you guys were already sold on that aspect. You're like, yeah, the money's like whatever, but this is why we want to do it for the trust, the affinity to meet our people, to do an MVP event. So it was super unique for us to go through that experience where someone's like already sold on the intangible benefits for the events. When you were talking to Ethan in the DMs, one of the things you said was we want to do an event. I'm paraphrasing here, but like, you wanted to do an event, but you didn't want to do it on your own because you guys wanted to stay in your bag, essentially.
That's
Why,
what I said, yes.
yeah, why did you want to find an event partner to help you do this event instead of trying to do it on your guys' own?
We've done stuff on our own and failed in the past. We end up spread too thin. We're not the domain expertise. We spend too much time doing it, and we're amateurs. So why not stay in the lane that we're actually good at, the things that we can actually do, and hire the best world class people that know what they're doing, that make all the decisions, that like have the playbook. Why not bring them into the team and do it? So we made the mistake in the past, and we call it building strip malls, not skyscrapers. So
Mm,
like everything that you add on, you just horizontally get spread out. Versus like we want to add floors to the existing businesses that we have, so we can build a skyscraper
mm,
instead of a strip mall. And layering on your team at Bullish is like adding a floor to our existing businesses versus us adding a suite to our strip mall.
mm,
So that's why we did it.
mm.
And like that's how you grow. That's how you grow a business.
Yeah.
Too, is like bringing on world-class people to your team, whether they're full-time hires internally or outsourced support.
Mm. That's cool to do. You haven't used that example with us yet. That makes a lot of sense. The skyscrapers versus strip mall. That's a cool analogy. Obviously, we ended up working together on that event. For context, anyone watching this, Ethan and I run a company called Bullish Events, and we partnered with Greg and Jordan to help them do their first in-person event. Jordan, from your perspective, what was your experience like working with us on that event? Did it meet your expectations? Did it make the experience easier and better for you? Yeah, and in your words, what was the experience like?
Yeah, it was amazing. It felt like we hired people in onto our team. Like that's how it truly felt. Like once you guys got added to the Slack and we started collabing, it felt like we made full-time hires, which when you have an outsourced support, whether it's an agency or a contractor, you never really get the full attention or you don't feel like you get the full attention. You're always kind of juggling and competing with other clients. That's not how it felt with you guys at all. It felt like you were 100% hired to do this, and you were thinking about us all the time, which I think is a testament to how you guys operate and just the expertise that you have and the playbook that you guys have. And so it felt seamless off the jump. I think we were probably the bottleneck on a lot of stuff, on the decisions and the branding, and just it being the first event, not only for the brand, but also for us in general. So there was a lot of decisions to be made. And I think you guys would have cooked even more autonomously if we would have gotten out of the way or had a true like definition for what we were going to do instead of just like vibe building it as we were going. So
Mm,
I think that's the biggest thing, is it felt like we hired full-time hires,
mm. No, we
which
appreciate that,
is
man.
rare, you know.
Yeah, that's honestly the whole vision for our companies. We always want to like it's hard to sell like via, discovery call or on a sales
Mm.
call, but like we truly want to integrate into the business as much as possible and like you said, become part of the team. What was it like
Well,
for
that's
you?
what
Like,
everyone sells, you know. That's
yeah,
what everyone. We join your team. We're an extension of your team, and then guess what? They're not, you
yeah.
know. And so you guys were.
What was it like on site? Because that's one thing, one of the biggest pain points someone comes to us when they've already ran an event before is like the worst part was like being on site and having to like run the show and also think about all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, like capturing the content, the food and beverage, like making sure the attendees like know where to go. Um, how was the experience for you guys on site having Bullish Events as your partner there to run the event for you?
Oh, couldn't have done it. Couldn't have done it without bullish events. Without quite like full stop. People would have been hungry. People would have been thirsty. People wouldn't have had lattes. People wouldn't have had coffee. We wouldn't have had mics. We would have been cooked.
Mm, the Cuban coffee was crucial.
Had to have it. Yeah, and just the scheduling, you guys like we looked to you guys, it felt like I was a coach getting the call, on the sideline. I had my little like playbook, but I was like, no, we need to play. So having you guys there for the play, keeping us on track, audibling on the schedule I think was absolutely critical because you have a plan and then, life happens and your first session goes 2 hours over the allotted time because people were just, going ham on questions. So, being able to readjust and having you guys as partners that were seeing the field from like the coaches stand, I think was had to have it.
Mhm. Yeah.
It
No,
would
it's
have been
a
awful. It would have been awful.
yeah, and that's like we want the experience to be almost as good for you guys as the attendees, you know? Like it's that's like one of the biggest pain points we see with someone that's already done events is like they're like, I don't want to do one ever again because of how stressful it was to be on site and like doing it both. So
Yeah, you can't not have someone,
mhm,
like if you guys weren't there, I would have had to do that, and then Greg would have been doing all the content by himself,
mhm,
and that would have been a ton to just divide and conquer. And once again, not our bag. And I think people should just, especially in an AI world now more than ever, just play in their lane and be really good at what they're good at, and then bring other world-class people into the mix.
mhm. No,
So
totally.
whether you hire Bullish Events or not, get someone to
Mhm.
that knows events to do it. But I'm not working with anyone else.
Last question I got for you. What would you say to a founder or a business that's one on the fence about even doing an in-person event in the first place, and then second, doing an in-person event with Bullish Events as their partner?
One, if you're on the fence of doing an IRL event, you should hire Bullish Events. Two, at least help you design it at a bare minimum. Like you can have any event in the world, but find one that works in your business, in your funnel, in your flywheel that can be designed, whether you're going to start today or in 3 months or 6 months. Just getting like a framework for what this could mean for your business as a new product arm. I think you'd be surprised to see what it can do from revenue, what it can do from affinity, what it can do for just general product development and growth. Putting your customers or fans in a room is killer for just product development and making your other offers better as well.
Mhm.
So at a bare minimum, design what an IRL event could look like if you're interested in exploring it. You want someone who works in this type of events though. Like that's the thing. It's like we talked to other events planners and it was like, yeah, we can rent this boat, we can get this catering. That's all like table stakes stuff. You need people that will like integrate that with like system design and content design and outcome design and testimonials and content capture. Like you need business event planners, in my opinion,
Mhm.
to do this. So one, hire you guys or whoever to do um a design,
Mhm.
an event design. If you like the design and you're fired up, all you have to do is pick a date on the calendar. It's going to feel uncomfortable. You pick a date, you book the place, and then you're set, and the rest works itself out, and you run your first event. I think we tried to do this so many times, and that's what we never did. We never designed it, and we never picked the date. And if Parkinson's law is true, spoiler, it is, the work expands to fill the timeline that you give it.
Mhm.
And we worked until the last second, even though we pushed it a week, it just always will. So if you're thinking about this, design the thing, pick a date, book the spot, and just lock yourself in to doing it and see what happens.
Well, Jordan, appreciate you for jumping on, man. It was a pleasure to do that event with you guys. It was super fun. Like I said, like you guys were a very unique partner to work with, where you were already sold on the stuff that like we care about deeply, but we usually have to like speak about other stuff online to attract people to our business. But you guys were already sold on the more intangible benefits of events, which was really cool. So it was awesome to work with you guys, and I think we'll be doing some more events together in the future at some point. But one more
We will.
time. Got a shout out, late checkout, idea browser, Greg Eisenberg as well. I know, or Jordan mentioned him a little bit at the beginning. I'll make sure to link his socials down below too. But what you guys are building is awesome. I love the whole vision of late checkout, idea browser. If you guys are looking for ideas, whether you are already growing a business or you're looking for an idea just to start a business, idea browser is the place to go. And you're also idea browser is active on X, right? You're starting to post a lot there, so you can go follow
Oh,
him
yeah.
on X, go check him out there. But thanks again for jumping on.
Of course. Anytime.